All right, let's open the dossier on Robert Scott Lazar. In this explainer, we're diving deep into one of the most infamous claims in modern history, the reverse engineering of extraterrestrial tech at a classified military site, and the incredibly efficient, almost terrifying way the government seemingly dismantled a man's entire identity. Now, we're keeping things strictly objective here. We're going to cut through the noise and just focus on his actual assertions, what he supposedly saw and touched, and the massive countermeasures the government allegedly deployed to silence him. No rumors, just the facts as laid out in the files. Section 1. Subject File, Robert Lazar. So, Lazar first pops up on the radar back in May 1989. You might remember the infamous Vegas TV broadcast where he was heavily silhouetted, going by the fake name Dennis. Now, a critical detail here, he didn't actually claim to work at the main Groom Lake facility of Area 51. No, he said he was stationed at S4, a highly classified subsidiary site about 15 miles south, literally built right into the side of a mountain at Papoose Lake, totally camouflaged.
Section 2. S4 Assignment Timeline.
To really grasp the severity of these claims, we gotta look at the exact timeline. Records show him as a Los Alamos contractor back in 1982, but that critical operational window at S4, that spans exactly from December 1988 to April 1989. And it all blew up in April when he committed a massive security breach by actually bringing civilians out to the desert to watch unauthorized test flights. He got caught, and well, that directly triggered his whistleblower broadcast in May. Section 3. Inventory, Saucers and Element 115. Item number 9. Lazar stated on the record that he visually confirmed exactly 9 distinct, disc-shaped craft sitting in these interconnected hangar bays. But his actual hands-on, direct reverse engineering work, that was limited to just one specific vehicle, which the files refer to as the sport model. Let's look at the specs for this sport model. We're talking roughly 52 feet in diameter, split across 3 internal levels. And the inside is fascinating. It was reportedly completely uniform in color, just totally devoid of any traditional flight controls. No panels, no wiring whatsoever. The main level had a central reactor, surrounded by 3 kind of subhuman-sized seats. Down on the lowest level, 3 gravity amplifiers that allowed for some crazy flight maneuvers, like flying belly forward. Now, propulsion is where it gets really wild, centering on element 115. The whole mechanism allegedly relied on a stable isotope of this super heavy metal. It was used inside that reactor to generate a localized gravitational envelope around the craft. And this envelope supposedly distorted light and radio frequencies, making the ship literally invisible from below and completely immune to inertia. But here is the massive chronological anomaly. Back in 1989, element 115 simply did not exist on our public periodic table. Human science didn't actually synthesize it until 2003, when it was named moscovium. An earthly moscovium decays in a fraction of a second. Yet, Lazar absolutely insisted the S4 inventory had a perfectly stable, naturally occurring variant, supposedly acquired directly with the extraterrestrial craft. Section 4. The Erasure Protocol. Almost immediately after he went public, a highly efficient systemic deletion of his entire institutional history kicked off. It's a huge paradox. On one hand, you have a guy demonstrating incredibly advanced, top-tier physics knowledge, claiming degrees from MIT and Caltech. On the other hand, his official paper trail literally turns him into a ghost. His educational records just vanished, and his employment was completely denied by both defense contractor EG&G and Los Angeles National Laboratory. Every independent inquiry hits the exact same brick wall. Investigators scoured the archives and found absolutely zero evidence he ever attended MIT or Caltech. Ufologists, skeptics, journalists, they all got the same absolute denial from these high-level scientific institutions. And the erasure went way beyond just deleting files. Lazar and his immediate circle faced some really aggressive retaliation. We're talking overt threats from intelligence agents to keep his mouth shut, his associates suddenly having their security clearances revoked, and highly targeted IRS audits. For a while, the guy couldn't even get a copy of his own birth certificate. It was a calculated, extremely cold campaign meant to force total isolation and silence. Section 5. Unexplained corroborating evidence. Now, despite this massive cover-up effort, a few weird fragments of evidence actually survived in the public domain.
And honestly, these fragments simply shouldn't exist if his whole story is just a fabrication. They totally disrupt the government's official denial narrative. You've got a denied Los Alamos job contradicted by a physical phone book, a science fiction element synthesized decades later, and highly classified S-Force security tech that turned out to be 100% real.
Let's take Los Alamos. The government completely denied he ever worked there. But in an internal 1982 facility telephone directory clearly lists Lazar Robert right there with the other scientists. Not only that, a 1982 Los Alamos Monitor newspaper article actually profiled him, explicitly naming him in print as a physicist at the Los Alamos Meson Physics Facility. It seems those old microfilm archives managed to slip past the Erasure Protocol. But the absolute biggest anomaly, the one piece of evidence that is incredibly hard to explain away, is the biometric checkpoint device. Back in 1989, Lazar perfectly described a bone-density hand scanner that he had to use to get into S4. People thought he was crazy. It was dismissed as total sci-fi. But decades later, images of that exact, highly classified technology were declassified. It was a real operational piece of military hardware that was completely unknown to the public back in '89.
Section 6. The final inquiry.
So we're left staring at a heavily redacted narrative, caught somewhere between two incredible extremes. Either this is one of the most elaborate, absolute fabrications in history, or it's a terrifyingly efficient government cover-up of arguably the greatest discovery ever made. Which brings us to the ultimate, lingering anomaly of this entire dossier. If he was lying, why did the government erase him?